The Whitmore mansion smells like money. Imported marble, fresh orchids, furniture worth more than Amara Williams will earn in a lifetime. She's the help, invisible, expected to clean and disappear. But today she can't move. Above the fireplace hangs a portrait of a 9-year-old boy, blonde, blue-eyed, smiling like he knows a secret. Amara's hands shake. The spray bottle crashes to the floor. That's impossible. She's staring at a face from 28 years ago, a face she'd never forget. The boy who gave her his winter coat when she was freezing, the boy who taught her to read by flashlight, the boy who saved her life. The nameplate reads, Ethan Whitmore, 1989 to 1998. Forever in our hearts. Footsteps echo in the hall. Heavy, expensive shoes on marble. Amara's crying, loud, ugly sobs, in a place where she's supposed to be silent. A man's voice cuts through the gallery. What the hell are you doing? Amara's alarm screams at 4:47 a.m. She doesn't snooze. Can't afford to. The apartment is small, one bedroom, shared with 8-year-old Zoe. Amara takes the couch. The walls are thin enough to hear the neighbor's television, but she's kept the place immaculate. Everything in its place. Everything earned. On the bathroom mirror, a sticky note in Zoe's handwriting. Mama, you're the best. 3 exclamation marks. A lopsided heart. Amara touches it, allows herself 5 seconds of warmth, then turns on the shower. Cold water first. The building's hot water doesn't kick in until 6. She dresses in the dark. Black pants, white polo shirt, name tag that reads, A. Williams, Cleaning Services. No last name needed. The help doesn't need full names. In the kitchen, she counts pills into a weekly organizer. Blood pressure medication she can barely afford. The prescription runs $87 a month even with the discount card. She takes 2 now, dry swallows them while checking her phone. 3 jobs today. Office building downtown at 6. Whitmore Estate at 11. Medical clinic at 4. The Whitmore job pays best, $18 an hour, but it's the furthest from home. Zoe's still asleep, braids splayed across her pillow. Amara kisses her forehead, leaves a note on the counter. Leftover pasta in the fridge. Mrs. Lane next door has snacks. Love you to the moon. The bus stop is 2 blocks away. Dawn hasn't broken yet. Amara's not alone. 3 other women wait in the cold, all wearing similar uniforms. They nod. No one speaks. Tired goes beyond words. The bus smells like diesel and resignation. Amara sits in the back, watches the city transform through the window. Her neighborhood. Check-cashing stores, laundromats, churches with Spanish signs. Then, mile by mile, the buildings grow. Taller, cleaner, whiter. By the time she reaches the Whitmore estate, she's traveled through 3 different Americas. The iron gates open automatically. The mansion rises behind them like something from a movie, all white columns and terraced gardens. 12,000 square feet, 15 staff members, more bathrooms than Amara has fingers. She clocks in through the service entrance. Never the front door. That's the rule. Mrs. Lane, the head housekeeper, briefs the morning crew in the staff kitchen. She's been here 20 years, knows every corner, every secret. Her uniform is crisper than Amara's, her authority quiet, but absolute. Mr. Whitmore is in the city until 3, Mrs. Lane says, checking her tablet. East Wing remains off limits, no exceptions. The East Wing, always locked, always forbidden. Amara never asked why. The help doesn't ask questions. Amara, you're in the main gallery today. New artwork arrived yesterday. White gloves, microfiber only. Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Lane's expression softens slightly. Your daughter, Zoe? She's doing well in school? Yes, ma'am. Honor roll. Good. Mrs. Lane nods. Keep it that way. It's the kindest thing anyone said to Amara all week. The gallery is 60 feet long, marble floors that cost more than Amara's yearly salary. Art on the walls worth millions. She's seen the insurance documents while dusting the office. But it's the portraits that dominate. All of them, she notices now, are of the same boy. Different ages, 5 years old on a horse, 7 with a golden retriever, 9 waving from what looks like a car window. 9 is where they stop. No teenager, no young man, just a child, frozen in time. Amara cleaned this gallery 20 times. She's never really looked before. The help sees but doesn't observe. Today, she observes. Why would a billionaire only display his son's childhood? Where are the graduation photos? The wedding pictures? The adult milestones? She thinks about the sticky notes Zoe leaves her. The macaroni art taped to their fridge. The school photos Amara can barely afford but buys anyway because someday, when Zoe's grown, these moments matter. But here, in this mansion of marble and money? Time stopped when the boy was 9. Amara pushes her cart toward the main portrait above the fireplace. Fresh flowers sit below it in a crystal vase. White roses, changed daily. Someone loves this child deeply. She starts cleaning the frame. Then she sees his face, and her world fractures. Winter, 1995, St. Catherine's Orphanage. 7-year-old Amara had learned 3 truths in her first month at St. Catherine's. 1. The radiators in the north wing didn't work. Sister Margaret said they'd be fixed by Christmas. It was already January. 2. If you were small and quiet, the older kids took your food. If you fought back, they took it anyway and gave you bruises to remember. 3. Adults didn't see you unless you were bleeding or breaking something. Even then, they looked through you, not at you. Amara sat in the corner of the common room, arms wrapped around her knees, shivering. 32 kids crammed into a space meant for 20. The air smelled like industrial soap and wet wool. Someone's radio played static-filled pop music. Most kids ignored it, hunched over homework or staring at nothing. She'd been here 6 weeks. Felt like 6 years. Her coat, thin, donated, 2 sizes too big, had disappeared 3 days ago. She'd left it on her bunk during dinner. Came back to find it gone. When she told Sister Margaret, the woman barely looked up from her paperwork. Check the lost and found. There was no lost and found. Now the cold lived inside Amara's bones. The kind of cold that made sleep impossible, made her teeth chatter during lessons, made her fingers too stiff to hold a pencil properly. Reading time was the worst. The other kids stumbled through picture books while Mrs. Patterson, the volunteer teacher, sighed and checked her watch. When Amara asked for help sounding out words, Mrs. Patterson's smile was thin and tired. Sound it out yourself, sweetie. I can't hold everyone's hand. So Amara stopped asking. She was disappearing, becoming invisible. Just another forgotten kid in a system that had too many kids and not enough care. Then the new boy arrived. Amara noticed him immediately. Everyone did. He didn't look like he belonged. Clean clothes, expensive sneakers, a puffy North Face jacket still creased from the store. His hair was neatly cut. His hands were soft, uncalloused. Rich kid. Had to be. The social worker who brought him spoke in hushed tones with Sister Margaret near the office. Amara caught fragments. Temporary placement. Custody dispute. Just a few months. The boy stood in the doorway of the common room, looking lost. His name was Ethan. He was 9. The older boys circled him like sharks. Nice jacket, rich boy. What's Mommy and Daddy do? Forget to pick you up from soccer practice? Ethan didn't respond, just clutched a small duffel bag and stared at the floor. But at dinner, watery soup and stale bread, Amara saw him watching. Not the bullies, not Sister Margaret. Her. She was shaking so hard she could barely hold her spoon. The cold had burrowed so deep she couldn't remember what warm felt like. After dinner, in the common room, Ethan sat down next to her. "Hi." Amara didn't answer. Didn't trust kindness. It usually had a price. "You're cold," Ethan said. Not a question. An observation. "I'm fine." "No, you're not." He stood up, unzipped his North Face jacket. The tag was still attached. $120. More than Amara had seen in her entire life. "Here." "What?" "Take it." He held it out. "You need it more than me." Amara stared. "Why?" "Because you're freezing, and I have 2 sweaters under this anyway." It was a lie. She could see he only wore a thin t-shirt underneath. But he pushed the jacket into her hands anyway, then walked away before she could argue. The jacket was warm. Impossibly warm. Amara put it on and felt human again. That night, after lights out, a flashlight beam swept across her bunk. "You awake?" Ethan, whispering from the hallway. "Yeah." "Can I show you something?" He led her to the corner near the broken radiator, pulled out a worn paperback. Charlotte's Web. "You were struggling in reading today," he whispered. "I can help, if you want." For the next 3 months, every night after Sister Margaret's rounds, Ethan taught Amara to read. 1 word at a time, 1 page at a time. Patient, kind, never making her feel stupid. He shared his lunch when hers got stolen. Sat with her when the other kids excluded her. Asked about her dreams, something no adult had ever done. Then, in late March, a black Mercedes pulled up to St. Catherine's. Ethan's father had won custody. The morning he left, Ethan pressed a folded piece of paper into Amara's hand. "Don't open it until I'm gone." She watched from the window as he climbed into the back seat. Just before the door closed, he turned. Waved. That same gentle smile. The exact pose she'd see 28 years later in a portrait. After the car disappeared, Amara unfolded the paper. "Keep learning. You're meant for more. E." The coat kept her warm that winter. The note kept her going for the next 28 years. "I asked you a question." The voice is sharp, controlled. The kind of voice used to being obeyed. Amara spins around, nearly dropping her cleaning supplies. Samuel Whitmore stands in the gallery entrance, tall, silver-haired, wearing a suit that costs more than her car. His expression is stone. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean..." "This area was supposed to be finished an hour ago." His eyes narrow. "And you're crying. On my son's portrait." Amara wipes her face quickly, smearing tears across her cheek. Her hands won't stop shaking. She needs this job. Zoe needs this job. "I apologize, Mr. Whitmore. It won't happen again." That's not an answer. He steps closer, and Amara instinctively steps back. "Why are you crying?" The lie forms on her tongue. Allergies, personal problems, nothing, sir. But when she looks up at the portrait, at that 9-year-old face, the truth spills out. "I knew him." Samuel freezes. "What?" "Your son, Ethan." Amara's voice cracks. "I knew him when he looked exactly like that." For 3 seconds, Samuel Whitmore says nothing. His face shifts. Confusion, then something harder. Defensive. "That's impossible." St. Catherine's orphanage, winter of 1995. He was there for 3 months. The words tumble out now, unstoppable. "He gave me his coat. Taught me to read. He..." "Stop." Samuel's hand cuts through the air. "My son was never in an orphanage." The north wing had broken radiators. Sister Margaret ran the place. The lunch trays were blue plastic, chipped on the edges. Every Thursday was macaroni day, but they never had enough cheese, so it was just noodles and... How do you know these things? Amara meets his eyes, sees the cracks in his armor. Because I was there, Mr. Whitmore. I was 7 years old. Ethan was 9. He looked exactly like he does in that painting. Exactly. Samuel's jaw tightens. He turns away, stares at the portrait of his son. When he speaks again, his voice is quieter, almost broken. My wife. She had psychiatric issues. There was a custody battle. He swallows hard. Ethan was in foster care for 3 months while the courts decided. We agreed never to speak of it. He came home and we moved on. He was kind to me there, Amara whispers. The kindest person I'd ever met. He never told me. Samuel's hand rises toward the portrait, then falls. He never told me he helped anyone. After he came home, he stopped talking about that time entirely. I assumed he wanted to forget. The silence stretches between them. 2 strangers, separated by wealth and power and race, connected by a 9-year-old boy in a painting. Finally, Samuel turns back to her. You're Amara Williams, the new estate manager candidate. Mrs. Lane mentioned you. I clean, sir. Mrs. Lane doesn't mention people unless they're exceptional. He studies her face. My son gave you his coat. I still have it. And the note he left me. Amara's voice steadies. It said, keep learning. You're meant for more. Something shifts in Samuel's expression. Recognition. Regret. Show me. Amara pulls out her wallet with trembling fingers. Inside, protected by a plastic sleeve, is a piece of paper. Worn, creased, 28 years old. She hands it to Samuel. His hand shakes as he reads the faded pencil marks. His son's handwriting from age 9. The last age when they were close. This is real, Samuel whispers. Yes, sir. He looks at her, really looks at her, for the first time. Come to my study. We need to talk. Samuel Whitmore's study smells like old money and older grief. Wood-paneled walls lined with law degrees, business awards, photographs of a life carefully curated. Amara perches on the edge of a leather chair, still in her cleaning uniform, feeling like an intruder. Samuel sits behind his desk, mahogany, massive, and pours himself 2 fingers of scotch. He doesn't offer her any. The help doesn't drink with the boss. Tell me about my son. It's not a request. Amara's mouth is dry. What do you want to know? Everything. Start from the beginning. So she does. She tells him about arriving at St. Catherine's in December, orphaned after her mother's overdose, terrified and alone. About the cold that lived in her bones because the radiators didn't work. About the older kids who stole her food, her coat, her dignity. Ethan arrived in January. I remember because it was the day after New Year's. He had this jacket, North Face, bright blue, still had the tags on. The other kids mocked him for it. Samuel's knuckles whiten around his glass. They called him a rich boy. Trust fund baby. Said his parents probably abandoned him at the mall. Amara's voice softens. But Ethan didn't fight back. He just observed, watched, like he was trying to understand how we survived. And then he gave me his coat, just walked up to me in the common room, took it off, and said I needed it more than him. She pauses. I was shaking so hard I couldn't hold my soup spoon. He noticed. No one else did, but he did. Samuel sets down his glass. What else? He taught me to read. Every night after lights out, he'd sneak to my bunk with a flashlight and this old paperback, Charlotte's Web. I was behind in school, struggling with every word, and the teachers didn't care, but Ethan cared. He was patient, never made me feel stupid. That sounds like him. Samuel's voice cracks slightly. The boy I knew, anyway. What happened? Amara asks, then immediately regrets it. I'm sorry, I shouldn't. No. Samuel stands, walks to the window overlooking the estate grounds. You deserve to know. You knew him when he was still himself. He's silent for a long moment. My wife, Catherine, had bipolar disorder, undiagnosed for years. When Ethan was 9, she had a severe episode. Tried to take him out of school, convinced the government was watching us. I filed for emergency custody. She fought back. It got ugly. Samuel's reflection in the window looks 20 years older. Social services placed Ethan in foster care while the courts decided. It was supposed to be temporary, a few weeks. It turned into 3 months. By the time I got him back, he was different, quieter. Wouldn't talk about what happened there. He talked to me, Amara says softly. Yes, but not to me. Samuel turns back to face her. After he came home, I tried everything. Therapy, family trips, new school. Nothing worked. By the time he was 10, we were strangers living in the same house. The pain in his voice is raw, real. When he turned 18, he told me he was majoring in social work. Not business, not law, social work. Samuel laughs bitterly. We had a fight. I said if he wasn't going to take the family business seriously, he could pay his own way. So I cut him off. Amara's chest tightens. He didn't call. Didn't ask for money. Just disappeared into his own life. We'd see each other at Christmas, maybe. Stiff conversations. Forced smiles. The lawyers handled his trust fund. I handled the business. We both pretended it was fine. How long? 5 years. Samuel's voice drops to a whisper. 5 years of silence. Then a police officer knocked on my door at 2 a.m. Car accident. A drunk driver ran a red light. Ethan died at the scene. He was 25. The study feels too small suddenly, too full of regret. I'm sorry, Amara whispers. I buried him without knowing who he'd become. His friends spoke at the funeral, people I'd never met. They told stories about his volunteer work, his advocacy for foster kids, his dedication to helping people the system forgot. I stood there listening to them describe a stranger. Samuel moves to his desk, opens a drawer, pulls out a small frame, a photograph of 9-year-old Ethan, grinning at the camera. This is the son I remember, before everything fell apart, before I failed him. He sets the photo down carefully. I have his portrait in every room of this house, all of him as a child, because that's the only version of my son I actually knew. Amara reaches into her wallet, pulls out the worn note. He wrote this before he left St. Catherine's. I've carried it every day for 28 years. Samuel reads it again, his thumb tracing the faded pencil marks. Keep learning. You're meant for more. E. He believed in me when no one else did, Amara continues. Because of that coat, I survived the winter. Because of those reading lessons, I graduated high school, got my GED, found work, raised my daughter. Her voice strengthens. Your son saved my life, Mr. Whitmore, and I never got to thank him. Samuel stares at the note for a long time. When he finally speaks, his voice is different. Decided. Mrs. Lane mentioned you were being considered for an estate manager. The position comes with a salary of $65,000 a year, full benefits and housing assistance. I'm offering it to you. Effective immediately. Amara's breath catches. Sir, I'm not qualified. You knew my son. The real version. The 9-year-old who gave away his coat and taught kids to read by flashlight. Samuel meets her eyes. That boy would want me to help someone he helped. And maybe Maybe by helping you, I can understand him better. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Let me do this one thing right. He pauses. My son saw something in you worth saving. I'd like to honor that. Amara thinks of Zoe, of the medication she can barely afford, of the 3 jobs and the cold bus rides and the apartment with thin walls, of the future that always seemed just out of reach. Yes, she whispers. Thank you. Samuel nods, then extends his hand across the desk. When Amara shakes it, his grip is firm, but his hand trembles slightly. Welcome to the Whitmore estate, Ms. Williams. Officially. As Amara leaves the study, she glances back. Samuel has returned to the window, staring out at the manicured grounds, one hand pressed against the glass. He looks like a man trying to find his way back to a son he lost twice. Once when the boy grew up, once when the man died. 3 weeks later, Amara signs the lease on a 2-bedroom apartment. Real bedrooms. Hot water that works. Windows that don't rattle in the wind. Zoe gets her own room for the first time in her life. She stands in the doorway, eyes wide, and whispers, "This is really ours? Really ours, baby." That night, Amara sleeps in an actual bed and wakes up without her back screaming. Small mercies feel like miracles. The Whitmore estate feels different now, too. Mrs. Lane trains her on inventory management, staff scheduling, vendor negotiations. The work is challenging, but Amara absorbs everything like she once absorbed reading lessons by flashlight. "You're a quick study," Mrs. Lane says, approval warming her usually stern voice. Samuel calls her into his study occasionally, not for work, for memories. "What did Ethan like to eat?" he asks one afternoon. "Peanut butter sandwiches. He'd trade anything for them." Samuel writes this down in a leather journal, building a portrait of his son from scattered pieces. Another day. Did he have friends there? He was kind to everyone, but he spent most of his time with me and this other boy, Marcus, who had asthma. Ethan would make sure Marcus got his inhaler during activities. Samuel's pen pauses. I never knew he did that. You never asked him, Amara says gently. The East Wing remains forbidden, but one afternoon while retrieving supplies, Amara notices the door slightly ajar. She peeks inside. Ethan's childhood bedroom, untouched, frozen at age 9. Star Wars posters, Lego sets, a small desk with pencils still in the cup holder. It's a shrine to a boy who stopped existing 30 years ago. Amara closes the door quietly. Later that week, she's reviewing vendor contracts when she hears voices from Samuel's study. The door is cracked. You're trusting her awfully quickly. A man's voice. Unfamiliar. Sharp. Gerald, she knew Ethan. So she claims. Samuel, she's a cleaning woman with a convenient story. You're grieving. People exploit that. I've seen proof. An old piece of paper, please. Gerald Ashford's tone drips skepticism. I'm just saying, watch yourself. You barely know this woman. What do you really know about her background? Amara moves away before she hears Samuel's response, but the poison has been planted, and she knows from experience that poison always spreads. Amara finds the box on a Thursday. She's organizing storage in the East Wing. Mrs. Lane finally granted her access after Samuel approved it. Most of the space is exactly what she expected. Old furniture under sheets, seasonal decorations, archived business files. But Ethan's room draws her like gravity. The door creaks open. Everything remains exactly as she glimpsed before, frozen in 1998. Star Wars posters, a 9-year-old's universe preserved in amber. The closet holds small clothes on hangers, shoes that would fit a child, and on the top shelf, pushed far back, a lockbox. Amara almost leaves it, should leave it, but her hands reach up anyway. The lock is broken, Has been for years, judging by the rust. Inside, she finds letters. Dozens of them. All addressed to Dad. None ever sent. The first one is dated March 2008. Ethan would have been 19. Dad, I know you're disappointed I chose social work over business, but I can't explain this in person because you won't listen. So I'm writing it down. When I was 9, during those 3 months you don't want to talk about, I met kids who had nothing, and I realized how much I had. How much was just luck. Being born into the right family, the right zip code, the right skin color. I can't unsee that. I won't. Amara's hands shake as she reads the next letter. And the next. Dad, I donated most of my trust fund to foster care organizations. Before you get angry, understand, I didn't need it. Other kids do. Remember Amara? The girl I gave my coat to? I found out she graduated high school last year. Against incredible odds. I made sure she got a scholarship for community college. You taught me the value of money. She taught me the value of people. Tears blur Amara's vision. There are bank statements showing donations, receipts for scholarships funded anonymously, and photographs, dozens of them. Ethan as an adult, surrounded by kids he'd helped, foster children, homeless youth, forgotten teenagers. And in one photo, Amara herself at 18, wearing a graduation cap surrounded by strangers. She never knew who took it. Now she knows. Ethan had been watching over her for years, making sure she had chances, creating opportunities from the shadows. The final letter is dated 2 weeks before his death. Dad, you have my portrait from age 9 on every wall of that house. The boy in those paintings? He learned something important that winter. He learned that kindness isn't charity. It's justice in action. You display that child everywhere, but you never wanted to know the man he became. Maybe someday you will. Maybe someday you'll understand that everything I did because of what that 9-year-old learned. I love you, even if you can't love who I am now. Ethan. Amara clutches the letter to her chest and sobs. This is what Samuel needs to see. His son's heart, written in his own words. She's gathering the letters carefully when she hears footsteps. Gerald Ashford stands in the doorway. What are you doing here? Amara stands quickly. Mrs. Lane assigned me to organize. Does organization include going through private belongings? Gerald's eyes narrow at the letters in her hands. Those are Whitmore family property. I know. I was going to bring them to Mr. Whitmore. He should see. You were going through a dead man's possessions. Gerald pulls out his phone. This is a violation of your employment agreement. Potentially theft. I'm not stealing anything. Then why are you holding those letters? Why are you in this room at all? He taps his phone. Security, I need you in the East Wing, immediately. Mr. Ashford, please. Where are the cufflinks? Gerald moves past her to the dresser, starts opening drawers. There were platinum cufflinks in here, worth $8,000. Where are they? Amara's stomach drops. I don't know anything about cufflinks. You're the only person who's been in this room in years. Gerald holds up an empty velvet box. They were here last week when I did inventory. Now they're gone. And I find you here, going through private property. I didn't take anything! 2 security guards appear in the doorway. Miguel, the night janitor, looks horrified. The other guard, Davis, keeps his face neutral. Check her pockets, Gerald orders. Sir, I don't think... Miguel starts. Check her pockets. Davis steps forward reluctantly. Ma'am, I need you to empty your pockets, please. Amara does. Wallet, chapstick, a hair tie. The note from Ethan, the one from 28 years ago, no cufflinks. Check her bag, her car, her locker. Gerald's voice is ice. Call the police. I want her arrested for theft. Mr. Ashford, this is extreme, Miguel protests. Are you questioning me? Miguel falls silent. Amara's world tilts. Please, call Mr. Whitmore, he'll understand. Mr. Whitmore is in meetings in Manhattan until 7. He left me in charge. Gerald smiles, and it's a predator's smile. You've exploited his grief long enough. The police arrive in 20 minutes. By then, Gerald has assembled the entire household staff in the foyer. Mrs. Lane stands rigid, face unreadable. Other staff members whisper, stare. Amara's humiliation is public, deliberate. The officers are professional but cold. They've seen this before, minority staff accused of theft by wealthy employers. The presumption of guilt hangs heavy. Ma'am, put your hands behind your back. The handcuffs click. Cold metal. Watching eyes. Mrs. Lane finally speaks. This is wrong. Evidence suggests otherwise, Gerald says smoothly. Amara is walked out through the front door, not the service entrance. The door she was never supposed to use. Her exit is a spectacle. In the police car, she thinks of Zoe. Her daughter will be home from school in an hour, expecting her mother. Instead, she'll find a neighbor's note and questions she's too young to understand. At the station, the questions are routine, boring, crushing. You recently received a promotion, correct? Yes, but from cleaning staff to estate manager. Significant pay increase. Mr. Whitmore offered, and you had access to the victim's personal belongings? The deceased isn't a victim. I didn't steal. Ma'am, the evidence suggests you had motive, means, and opportunity. The public defender arrives 3 hours later. Overworked, exhausted, already defeated. She reviews the file for 10 minutes. They have security footage of you entering the East Wing, financial records showing you have student loan debt. Character witnesses from Mr. Ashford's business associates willing to testify about staff theft patterns. But I believe you. But belief doesn't win cases. The lawyer's voice is kind but firm. You're looking at 2 to 5 years if this goes to trial and you lose. If you plead guilty, I can probably get it down to probation and restitution. I won't plead guilty to something I didn't do. The lawyer sighs. Then we go to trial, against a billionaire's legal team, with your background. She doesn't say black, poor, former orphan, but it hangs in the air anyway. Amara sits in the holding cell, still wearing her estate manager uniform, and realizes the system is doing what it always does, crushing people who dare to hope. Samuel Whitmore's phone rings at 6:47 p.m. Sir, there's been an incident. Mrs. Lane's voice is tight. Mr. Ashford had Ms. Williams arrested for theft. The pen in Samuel's hand snaps. 20 minutes later, his car screams back toward Connecticut. Gerald waits in the foyer, perfectly composed. Samuel, I know this is difficult, but the evidence is clear. She was in Ethan's room. The cufflinks are missing. You had her arrested without calling me? I was protecting the estate's interests. Get out of my house. Gerald's mask cracks. Samuel. Now. The holding cell smells like disinfectant and despair. Amara sits on the metal bench, eyes hollow. Williams. Visitor. Samuel walks in, sits beside her on concrete, his $1,000 suit against prison walls. Tell me what happened. She does. The letters from adult Ethan. The photographs. The proof that Ethan had watched over her for years, creating opportunities from shadows. He never stopped being that 9-year-old boy, she whispers. He never stopped believing in kindness. Samuel's voice breaks. Where are the letters? Gerald took them. Of course he did. Samuel pulls out his phone. I'm hiring an investigator. We're proving you're innocent. Why believe me? Because you cried real tears at my son's portrait. Gerald never cried about anything except money. Elena Rodriguez arrives at midnight. Former FBI. Reputation for destroying white-collar criminals. She reviews the security footage. Her eyes narrow. These timestamps are wrong. See this light? Morning sun, not afternoon. And here, 3 minutes of footage missing. Someone edited this. Samuel leans forward. Gerald manages our security systems. Convenient. Elena pulls up insurance records, studies the cufflinks documentation. According to this, those cufflinks were moved to a bank safe deposit box 6 months ago. They weren't even in that room. He planted evidence of theft. Question is, why? Mrs. Lane provides the answer at 1 a.m. She enters Samuel's study with Miguel and 2 other staff members, all nervous, all determined. Mr. Whitmore, we need to tell you something. Miguel speaks first. I saw Mr. Ashford in Ethan's room last week, late night. He didn't see me during rounds. Mrs. Lane places a phone on the desk. Miguel recorded the hallway on his personal device. The timestamp is accurate, unedited. The video plays. Gerald Ashford exits Ethan's room at 2:13 p.m., 45 minutes before Amara arrived. That's proof, Elena says. Mrs. Lane continues. Mr. Ashford has been accessing estate financial accounts. I tracked the discrepancies. She produces spreadsheets, highlighted numbers going back 3 years. Elena studies them, does quick math. He's embezzled $2.3 million, small amounts from multiple accounts. She looks at Samuel. He needed a scapegoat fast, someone without resources to fight back. Amara. Exactly. Elena closes her laptop. We have enough to clear her and destroy him. I'll have the report ready for the prosecutor by morning. Miguel shifts uncomfortably. Sir, we could have told you earlier about Gerald, but we didn't think you'd believe us over him. The truth hits Samuel hard. Because he's my partner. And your staff. Yes, sir. That ends now. Samuel's voice is steel. You protected someone I should have protected. You saw what I was blind to. Mrs. Lane nods once. She's one of us. We look after our own. Dawn breaks over the estate. Elena compiles her evidence. Edited security footage with metadata proof, bank records showing cufflinks secured off-site, Miguel's unedited video, financial documents revealing systematic embezzlement. Samuel reads through Ethan's letters, the ones Gerald tried to hide, his son's words from beyond the grave. You display that child everywhere, but you never wanted to know the man he became. Samuel traces the handwriting with his finger. Tomorrow they go to court. Tomorrow the truth comes out. But tonight, Samuel sits in the gallery beneath his son's portrait, that 9-year-old face frozen in time, and finally understands. The boy in that painting learned to see people, not positions. The man he became never forgot that lesson. And now it's Samuel's turn to see clearly. The courtroom is packed. What started as a simple theft case has exploded into something bigger. Word leaked about the billionaire's business partner, the embezzlement allegations, the framed employee. Local news cameras crowd the courthouse steps. Amara sits at the defense table in clothes Mrs. Lane brought her, a simple blue dress, professional but not expensive. Her court-appointed lawyer has been replaced by a sharp woman in a power suit, paid for by Samuel Whitmore. Across the aisle, Gerald Ashford radiates confidence. His legal team, 3 attorneys in matching navy suits, whisper strategies. He glances at Amara once, his smile thin and cold. The judge enters. Everyone rises. Be seated. We're here for the preliminary hearing in the matter of Connecticut v. Williams. Theft charges. I understand there are new developments? Amara's attorney stands. Yes, Your Honor. The defense has obtained evidence proving Ms. Williams' innocence and revealing the true perpetrator of fraud against the Whitmore estate. Gerald's lead attorney shoots up. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. These allegations against my client are baseless attempts to... I'll determine what's baseless. The judge adjusts her glasses. Present your evidence. Elena Rodriguez takes the stand first. Former FBI credentials established, her testimony is clinical and devastating. The security footage provided by Mr. Ashford shows significant tampering.
The metadata reveals editing at 4:17 p.m. on the day in question. The timestamps were altered to place Ms.
Williams at the scene during a time frame that matches the alleged theft. Elena pulls up side-by-side images on the courtroom monitors. However, the light angles are inconsistent with the claimed timestamps. This is morning light, not afternoon light. The footage was manipulated. Gerald's attorney objects. Overruled. Furthermore, Elena continues, the allegedly stolen cufflinks were transferred to a secure bank deposit box 6 months prior to this incident, as documented by the estate's own insurance records. They were never in the location where the theft supposedly occurred. Murmurs ripple through the gallery. Finally, we have unedited security footage from an independent source showing Mr. Ashford exiting the room in question 45 minutes before Ms. Williams ever entered. Miguel's video plays. Clear, undeniable. Gerald walked out of Ethan's room, checking his watch, adjusting his jacket. The courtroom erupts in whispers. The judge bangs her gavel. Order.
Continue, Ms. Rodriguez. Mr. Ashford had exclusive access to the security system, motive to create a scapegoat, and opportunity to plant false evidence. Our investigation also uncovered systematic embezzlement from Whitmore estate accounts, totaling $2.3 million over 3 years. She presents financial documents, bank transfers, shell company records, each one another nail in Gerald's coffin. Ms. Williams was framed to divert attention from Mr. Ashford's crimes. When Elena steps down, Gerald's composure has cracked. His attorneys huddle, frantic whispers. Samuel Whitmore takes the stand next. He's testified in court before. Business disputes, contract negotiations. But today is different. Today his voice shakes. I've known Gerald Ashford for 15 years. I trusted him with my business, my home, and my family's legacy. That trust was misplaced. Gerald's attorney starts to object, thinks better of it. Ms. Williams came into my employment 6 weeks ago. In that time, she revealed things about my son I never knew. Things I should have known but was too proud, too stubborn, too wrapped up in my own grief to see. Samuel pulls papers from his jacket pocket. Letters, worn at the edges. My son, Ethan, died 5 years ago. We were estranged. I only kept photos of him as a child because that was the last time we were close. I told myself I was honoring his memory. In truth, I was avoiding the man he'd become. His voice catches. Ms. Williams found letters Ethan wrote to me but never sent. Letters that show who he really was, what he believed, how he lived. Samuel unfolds one letter. The paper trembles in his hands. This one is dated 2012. Ethan was 23. He reads aloud. Dad, you taught me the value of money, but a girl named Amara taught me the value of people. When you have everything, the most radical act is to see those who have nothing. I learned that when I was 9. You have my portrait from that age on every wall, but you never wanted to know who I became after I learned that lesson. The courtroom is absolutely silent. Samuel's tears fall unchecked. My son spent his adult life helping people the system forgot, foster kids, orphans, people like Ms. Williams, who he met when they were both children. He followed her life, ensured she had opportunities, created pathways she never knew existed. He looks directly at Amara. Ms. Williams didn't steal from my family. She gave us back the truth about my son. Samuel turns to the judge, his voice steady now, strong. My son saw people, not positions. He saw worth where others saw nothing. And Ms. Williams, who survived poverty, who raised a daughter alone, who worked 3 jobs just to get by, she embodies everything my son believed in. Gerald Ashford tried to destroy her because she represented something he couldn't understand. Human decency. The judge's expression softens almost imperceptibly. When Samuel steps down, he walks past Gerald's table. Doesn't even look at him. Gerald's attorney makes a desperate play. Character witnesses. Business associates who testify about staff theft patterns, about the challenges of managing household employees, about the unfortunate reality of opportunistic workers. Each testimony drips with barely concealed classism and racism. The judge's face grows stonier with each word. Finally, she's had enough. Does the prosecution wish to redirect its case in light of this new evidence? The prosecutor, a woman who's been watching the defense presentation with increasing interest, stands. Your Honor, the state moves to dismiss all charges against Ms. Williams immediately. We'll be filing charges against Gerald Ashford for fraud, embezzlement, evidence tampering, and perjury. The judge doesn't hesitate. Motion granted. Ms. Williams, you're free to go. All charges dismissed with prejudice. The gavel strikes. Amara collapses into her chair, sobbing. Her attorney squeezes her shoulder. Across the aisle, police officers approach Gerald Ashford. Sir, you're under arrest for fraud and embezzlement. You have the right to remain. This is ridiculous! Gerald lurches to his feet. Samuel, tell them! She manipulated you! She's a nobody with a convenient story about some orphanage. Samuel's voice cuts through the courtroom. That nobody knew my son better than you ever did. Better than I did. She's a maid. She's a human being, something you apparently never learned to recognize. The officers handcuff Gerald, his expensive suit, his manicured hands, his entitled rage. You're making a mistake. When this gets sorted out, the only mistake, Samuel says quietly, was trusting you over her. Gerald is led away, still protesting, still not understanding. The courtroom erupts. Reporters surge forward. Cameras flash. Amara stands on shaking legs. Samuel crosses the aisle, extends his hand. She takes it. Outside, on the courthouse steps, the media swarms. Samuel makes a brief statement. Justice was served today. An innocent woman was vindicated. A guilty man will answer for his crimes. And I learned what my son tried to teach me years ago. Character isn't determined by bank accounts or last names. It's determined by how we treat people when there's nothing to gain from kindness. A reporter shouts, "What happens now?" Samuel looks at Amara. Now we honor my son's legacy the right way. That evening, the story breaks nationally. Billionaire's son's secret life of charity revealed. Woman framed for theft exposes multi-million-dollar embezzlement. Orphanage kindness saves life 28 years later. Social media explodes. People who knew Ethan come forward with their own stories. A foster kid he helped get into college. A homeless teenager he found housing for. A single mother he anonymously paid rent for. Dozens of lives, all changed by quiet kindness. Samuel sits in his study, surrounded by letters from strangers thanking his son for help they'd received, and realizes Ethan touched more lives than he ever imagined. The boy in the portrait learned to see people. The man he became never stopped looking. 3 months later, the Whitmore mansion's east wing has been transformed. Ethan's frozen childhood bedroom now houses the Ethan Whitmore Foundation. The walls that held a 9-year-old's dreams now hold scholarship applications and hope. Amara Williams, executive director, stands at her office window. Behind her desk, the worn note from 1995, "Keep learning. You're meant for more." She did. She is. Today is the dedication ceremony. The grounds overflow with people, media, donors, but mostly former foster kids, social workers, families Ethan helped. 50 teenagers from St. Catherine's Orphanage sit front row. Among them, Zoe, 8 years old, beaming with pride. Samuel takes the podium. My son died 5 years ago. I thought I knew him. I was wrong. His voice is steady. Ethan taught me that wealth without compassion is poverty, that seeing people, truly seeing them, is the most radical act of all. He looks at Amara. A woman came into my home 6 months ago. She was invisible, expected to clean and disappear, but she cried at my son's portrait and gave me back the son I'd lost twice. The crowd moves to the main gallery. 2 draped frames hang above the fireplace. Samuel pulls the first curtain. 9-year-old Ethan, forever smiling, the boy who learned to see people. He pulls the second curtain. The room gasps. Adult Ethan, 25, surrounded by children he'd helped, diverse faces, hopeful eyes, his smile unchanged, gentle, knowing, full of love disguised as secrets. Beneath both portraits, the boy who gave, the man who gave more. Samuel's voice breaks. I spent 15 years staring at the child. Today, I finally see the man. He's wearing something unexpected, a faded blue North Face jacket, too small, 28 years old. The coat. This jacket saved a life once. Now it represents all the lives we'll save together. Zoe steps forward. Samuel kneels. Zoe Williams, you are the first Ethan Whitmore scholar. Your mother survived because of my son's kindness. You'll thrive because we're continuing his work. Amara's tears fall. Joy, finally. Pure and earned. Later, alone in the gallery, Samuel and Amara stand before the portraits. He was watching over me for years, Amara whispers. He was better than me. Samuel touches the childhood frame. I kept this boy frozen because I couldn't face the man. A man who rejected everything I valued and embraced everything I'd ignored. He learned compassion by experiencing hardship. And I learned it by losing him. Samuel meets her eyes. Perhaps it's not too late to become who he believed I could be. You already are. They stand together, no longer separated by class or grief, connected by a 9-year-old boy who understood that kindness isn't charity. It's justice in action. The portraits watch over them. Both versions. The beginning and the continuation. A legacy that will outlive them all. 1 year later. Amara's office wall displays a map dotted with pins. Each one represents a life changed. 217 scholarships awarded, 50 families housed, countless futures rewritten. Zoe, now 9, sits at the small desk in the corner, sorting scholarship applications. Mama, this girl's essay is really good. She wants to be a doctor. Put it in the priority pile, baby. Through the window, Amara watches Samuel in the garden, talking with a group of teenagers from St. Catherine's. He volunteers there every Tuesday now, teaches financial literacy, listens to their dreams, sees them as people. The man is finally becoming who his son always believed he could be. Amara walks to the portrait gallery one last time today, both portraits side by side, the boy and the man. Different ages, same heart. She whispers to them both, "Thank you for seeing me when no one else did. Thank you for never forgetting." A young girl enters the mansion, clutching a scholarship letter. First-generation college student, foster care survivor, eyes full of hope. Mrs. Lane greets her warmly. "Welcome to the Whitmore Foundation. Let me show you what's possible." The cycle begins again.